I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. They're on such short notice. I've been in contact with Delegate Austin's office yesterday and today, and also and I just got off the phone with Delegate Austin. That's one of the reasons that I'm late. Delegate Austin and Cree Deeds both expressed interest in us getting some paperwork into them, a plan into them by tomorrow's deadline for a placeholder number for going into the budget for the second year of the biennium. They acted like this was a non-committal number. It would be based on a resolution passed by all four local governing boards. As you will remember, at our December 19th board meeting or committee meeting in this room, Delegate Austin acted like he was a little leery of the current situation in Richmond and was interested in us coming down for a meeting once the session started so he could kind of test the waters and get a feel for what is going on in Richmond. 2 days ago, the day before yesterday, or the night before last, Delegate Austin's legislative aide, Matt Miller, contacted me and wanted to know some sort of number to use as a place mark. He was very interested in putting something in. He had spoken with Cree Deeds. They were both interested in getting something in by this deadline. Although that is completely different than what we had talked about at our last meeting, when we decided that we were going to hold off and wait until see what happens at our Tuesday meeting when we go to Richmond. Also, we had decided to forego speaking with the Covington City Council and the Allegheny County Board of Supervisors on this subject because we were going to see what happened at our Tuesday meeting. Since then, I felt like it was important for our board to get together and talk and see if this was something that we wanted to present, if we wanted to present something to them or have them present some numbers by tomorrow. And speaking with Delegate Austin, I hadn't had a chance to speak with Delegate Austin directly until right before this meeting. And Delegate Austin would like to present numbers, but he said if we are not ready, he doesn't want us to give off a vibe of not being transparent to our boards because we had it, because we decided to forego presenting to the Board of Supervisors and the City Council about this. So I feel that it's probably best that we, well, I feel like we should probably all talk about it, but I know that I've talked to a lot of the committee members, and some folks were a little upset that things had changed this quickly. We're a little concerned about the about face with Delegate Austin. I would like to be the first to say that I don't think this is any fault of Delegate Austin's that this has happened. I think that he is only trying to help us in this situation, and the idea of putting a placeholder in for the second year of the biennium was just a way for him to help take advantage of some of this excess money, and the feeling that he got a better feeling after speaking with Cree Deeds, and that's something that we haven't had a lot of conversation with Cree Deeds about this, and so after Delegate Austin spoke with Cree Deeds, he thought that it would be beneficial to get something in, and I think that our committee has different thoughts on things on this matter, and I thought that we should probably discuss it after speaking with Delegate Austin. He said that we do not have to submit by any means, and that he is not, he is willing to submit after the deadline, like our financial analyst spoke about, and like we planned going forward as of our last meeting. With that being said, Mr. Harrett, you were on the phone with me earlier with Delegate Austin. What were your?
I look at this as throughout this process, we have had at least 2 advisors give us what you might call competing advice. We've had one consultant who advocated for going forward with any funding or appropriations material accompanied by a more full plan. And then we've had another consultant suggest almost the opposite, saying as long as we have good financial data as to what the appropriations number would be from the state, that would be sufficient to ask for their support. So I think this committee's had a bit of a decision to make in that regard for a while. So with the sort of no strings attached nature this opportunity in front of us this evening has, I think there is some merit to talking about what level of funding this evening we would be comfortable with. My own view is if we are not all comfortable with that, then perhaps we take the other road, to be honest. I think as far as what the year 1 through whatever the duration we would feel comfortable with, I think the bulk of the assistance we would need for that, I think, is known. We do have at least some variables in that regard, some variants that we would want to include in any number that we would submit. All of that is perfectly fine for debate and talk this evening, I think. So a number and a duration, if we think that we want to take advantage of anything within this session and debating the merits of that. Again, given that this is being presented to us as this number is a placeholder, it can be adjusted if we see fit. Although, to be fair, as you would imagine, if the number is increased, we would have to show why that number was increased, why we would be asking for any additional funds. So I think it's just simply an extension of the same choice that we've had to make for a while. So, with that, I brought a copy of the study with me today. I went back over the numbers this afternoon. Without adding variance, the 3 big pieces to any support that we would need would be obviously the salary equalization, the benefit equalization, and then state support for that early retirement incentive program. Those 3 numbers combined and rounded up essentially would bring us to a figure of about 1.3 million or so. So a figure of 1.5 is almost a 15% variance, 14.5, I think, on top of that. So I think it's just a matter of, is there a number that we're comfortable with and a duration at this point? So
I'm not comfortable with any number at this time because we do not have a complete plan. I feel like we need to use Troutman Sanders a little more than we've used them in putting this plan together and moving forward. It's not fair to the Board of Supervisors to move forward with this plan, and I can't go for it.
Mr. Chairman?
I think we need to have a little bit more, get a little more into the weeds a little bit in the thoroughness of the money side and tie it with the governance with the inclusion of Troutman Sanders to put together a more comprehensive and thorough plan. I think that's what they're looking for in Richmond also, is something a little bit more tangible to take rather than just a number. And I know it is a placeholder, but if we could get a little deeper into that, I think they'd feel more comfortable than I would too, just speaking honestly.
You go ahead. Okay. Well, my issue, okay, is that Terry said here that day, Mr. Austin said that he wouldn't feel comfortable with us doing this unless we had support of both boards and school boards and both boards. I don't see how that's changed.
To sort of address that quickly though, if we were if we were comfortable and submitted something to them, I think that would be at our next board meetings, the next
And that would,
meeting, we would ask.
and anything that he would submit would be contingent on resolutions being passed by the 4 boards and support by the four boards.
Well, what happens if it doesn't fly?
Withdrawn. And that's one of the things that Terry mentioned, is the idea that this would be a placeholder that he could pull at any time we didn't want it, or if it didn't pass any of the boards, he could pull it at any time. I think his main concern was, if we go down there on Tuesday and the new the Zachary Robbins, the new person that is the fiscal analyst for the House, if he was to say yes, we want to see you do this, I think that Terry just wanted to have legislation already in there, so he doesn't have to ask for. And this is one of the things that he said earlier in our conversation. He said that it was easier for him to put something in now than to ask for forgiveness from the House Speaker at a later point. Terry said that it was very non-committal, any number that we would give. Our biggest concern, and I know this is Mr. Griffith's biggest concern, is that we had talked about something completely different last week and when we met on the 19th. So this is kind of a surprise thing, and and I absolutely understand Mr. Griffith's concern, and I think it's something that we are all worried about, the optics. It seems like that Richmond they are on board with making this happen, but we have to show our community that we're people of our word, and we acted like we were slowing down and not going to present. So that's why it's been a real catch. And I'll tell you personally, and you all know how much the idea of this and this process means to me. I have been worried sick all day long today about the idea of our legislators say they're on board and willing to, ready to stick their neck out there, and then us say, we need to hold back a little bit. And that's there's two different, it's a whole new thing that I wasn't expecting 2 weeks ago. I wasn't expecting last Thursday. I wasn't expecting it Tuesday. I was at the Covington City Council meeting where Mr. Eric gave his presentation to them. I wasn't expecting this. If we were expecting this, I would have gone to the Board of Supervisors meeting on Tuesday night.
So what happens if we don't? Well, what's ugly? If we don't ask for the placement right now? I don't think there is one. I think that if we decided our Tuesday meeting to do something differently, then we're going to have our Thursday meeting following that, and we can discuss what we found out on Tuesday. I think basically what it is, I think it's saving a little face and not making our senator and our delegate have to go back to ask if we do come up with something to ask them. I think it's a lot easier for them to submit something now than See, I worry about
next
our
Friday.
face.
And that's
I was just going to look to
and that's the reason we're all here right now,
Yeah,
because we need to discuss this, and we've been put into an interesting situation, to say the least. We've had people talk about us slowing down, and we talked last meeting about completely slowing down. I did not expect Delegate Austin to feel so confident. After our December 19th meeting, he acted like that we weren't going to do anything until we met with him on the 14th. Without our delegates and senator, being on board, we don't have anything when it comes to Richmond. And by hearing, yesterday that they were both so gung-ho about it. It just scared me, and that's why I wanted to discuss it with all of you all.
So this would be a placement only. This is not a commitment from us saying we want to do this, right?
This would be a
placeholder is the way it's being described. Again, as you would estimate anything, as you would describe anything that's a placeholder, it should be the most accurate that you think you could make it. So I think that's where, as I was saying earlier, I think it falls back to our level of comfort in making that. If you're going to make that placeholder number, it should be accurate to the best of your knowledge. And I think we know a significant amount about what the costs will be, but I think maybe to Mr. Griffith's concerns, I mean, there are still some unknowns out there. So, that being said.
And this number that they were talking about was for salary equalizations in the early retirement incentive program.
So did he know that we haven't took this to any of the boards?
Yes.
He knew that, and still thought we should do it.
Well, he thought we should include in that it has to be approved by all 4 boards.
He doesn't mind getting mud on his face if all 4 boards, one of them says no.
Well, I think that's what
He would just withdraw. He would withdraw.
At this point, personally, I feel like we're 65 to 75% where we need to be. But in all fairness to a state representative, there are a lot of new faces, and from a locality standpoint, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. We can't afford for this to fail the first time out. And there's some things that need to be clarified and finalized that I think they feel more comfortable with also, in presentation, and a little bit of help in, with the lobbying of it. I think we've got to go an extra step in having our law firm, help with that, finalizing, that's their bailiwick. That's what we need them to help push across the finish line. And I think that would shore up the presentation portion of that and some security for our legislators to feel comfortable with the plan. But I think we've got to get, I think Tuesday is a prime example of us having a concept and a basic idea and saying this is where we are. We can finalize it to be this. Tell us how we can make you more comfortable. And I think that's what we need to concentrate on.
Mr. Wright, if I may add something. On Monday and Tuesday, I was in Richmond meeting with actually Jim Reginbald as well, not related to this, and he gave the superintendents a big picture of the budget, and what we have coming in is surplus funding. And so you're going to have a lot of Democrats asking for this surplus funding to be used in different places. And it could be, that's why they said what you said, that extra funding is there right now. It may not be there the second year of the biennium. And so by putting it in there as a placeholder, that extra funding, where they have yet to determine, which is not part of the governor's budget, it's in addition to, could get earmarked somewhere else. I can only guess that, but after hearing what he had to say, and also legislators here to say that on Tuesday, that's a possibility.
Well, it did seem that it was apparent that after talking with Creed that he had a different thought process on the whole thing. I mean, he felt more confident about.
The return was supposed to be 4%. It's closer to 7%.
What do you think, Mayor?
Significantly more than it is.
Okay. How about an opinion?
I'm not worried about saving face. I haven't said or done anything that I regret or feel like was false information. We have new information on the table tonight. I can take that information and I can go a lot of different ways with it. I can make a good argument for going ahead and putting the number in and knowing that it's just a whole, it's nothing that we're obligated to. At the same time, I'm not comfortable with how far along we are. We should be farther than we are, but just the way things have happened, we haven't gotten there. I'd be a whole lot more comfortable if we had started some committees back in December when we first talked about it. We would be that much farther down the road. You know, just because the money's there doesn't mean we need to do anything. That's not a good reason to do something, just because you can get the money. If we get the money and then something jumps out of the woodwork and says, oh, it's going to be another $1 million, well, we didn't ask for another $1 million. So then we're $1 million short. I don't know what's out there. I think Sanders probably knows what's out there. I've gone over the report, and there's money savings, and there's things that can happen, but we don't, in that $1.5 million, there is not a dime for buildings. There's not a dime to fix a heater. There's not a dime to do anything. Can't even paint the wall because it's not included. So there's no money set aside for building maintenance or anything else. So, you know, we hadn't even had the building study yet. We don't know what we need for building study. We might do the building study and realize, you know, we need to ask for $2.5 million. I don't know.
So, with all due respect, backing up to the committees, weren't you the one that said that this committee was tasked with 3 different
Yes.
goals, and that we didn't need to start committees yet at this?
No, that wasn't me. It was me that said we need to start committees, and I think it was you that said we'll get to that later.